Hello, this is Rachel Wilkes, and this is my third and final vlog for IDS 403. Hey Kyle. I'm going to go ahead and go through my questions for this prompt. Number 1, describe neoevolution. What is it and what are its primary tenets? After watching the TED Talks from the resources for this week's module, I compiled a couple quotes from the speakers. Harvey Feinberg stated that neoevolution is an unnatural evolution that is guided and chosen by us as individuals and the choices we will make. I thought that was an excellent description of the term. Paul Root Wolpe said, he described it as the third wave in evolution. So evolution, he just said it can be called different things by different people, but specifically I liked the term evolution by design that he stated. That was very descriptive. So in practicality, an example of this, it could look like people making choices about their offspring, changing cells in their offspring to genetically specify what attributes they would like to see in their children. To be able to make the genetic adjustments that would cure or prevent diseases in people. So looking ahead, these kinds of changes are definitely going to be increasingly possible based on the current state of advancing biotechnology and bioengineering. Some of the experimentation of modern medicine is challenging natural evolution in a way that's never been seen before. Number 2, provide an example of a technology that is altering or may alter human evolution. So I chose one that's pretty popularly known, or very popularly known, I should say, which would be cloning. Cloning's already been being done in animals. So many animals have been cloned already: horses, pigs, dogs, even. So that's definitely like a prominent one in this field that we're discussing. Number 3, what are the potential benefits of this type of technology? So there's definitely positive things, motivations behind the process of cloning. So cloning animals is being done to try to save endangered species and create drugs. So scientists are trying to create drugs in the bodies of animals that could help people, which I thought was really fascinating. An example of this is the antithrombin created in the molecules of a genetically modified goat. So I thought that was really very interesting. That's kind of the angle that they're trying to come from in a positive light. Number 4, what are the potential drawbacks? I think there's definitely a lot of drawbacks with cloning for sure. So in one of the TED Talks that was discussing cloning, there's biological problems that are a direct result of growing a specific new to try to maintain or save endangered species. Growing it inside a specific kind of animal produces animals that aren't actually true pure species. They have 2 different kinds of DNA, so essentially they're hybrids. So I think that they were saying in the TED Talk, I think it presents a questionable situation of how do we define that specific animal species moving forward with all these kind of arbitrary situations that are producing these hybrid animals. But even more than that, beyond that, more importantly, where will cloning progress? Like all this experimentation with biotechnology, it all essentially is leading to, if it hasn't already, trying to be utilized with humans and not just animals. So where will that put us as a society, ethically, socially, and more? I think there's a lot of dangers with that. What kind of physiological fallout could that cause in us as humans if that ultimately was manifested. How could it potentially backfire? What kinds of problems could unnaturally created humans present? I mean, to be honest, I can't even imagine. Um, Number 5, what are the moral and ethical implications of neo-evolution? Being that neo-evolution is based on the choices of humanity, leaving something so vital and huge and powerful to the choices of man is a huge thing. There's tremendous implications with that. Humans don't always make good choices. Sometimes we're reckless and irresponsible, and more often than not we are, because we're flawed and we're human. So there's definitely moral and ethical implications there. So Harvey Feinberg said, will we use these choices to make a society that is better, more useful, kinder, etc.? Or will we selectively choose different attributes that we want for some of us and not others of us? Thought that was an interesting, that was a interesting hypothetical situation that he posed, that I could very much see coming to fruition if that was the case. Would we become more boring and uniform? Will we ever be able to develop the wisdom to make these choices wisely? That's the ultimate question. It's a big question. Number 6, should we continue to pursue this form of technology? Why or why not? I quoted Paul, or I wrote down this little quote here from Paul Root Wolf. He stated, once we perfect these technologies in animals and start using them in human beings, what are the ethical guidelines we will use then? So that was kind of to go back to what I was saying before. When in terms of them being used with human beings, the negative implications could be very vast. So with that being said, I personally don't think we should necessarily continue on the road that we're on, because I think it's the destination is kind of already written in the stars, to be honest. I think it's too dangerous and unnatural to begin to involve human beings in much of this technology. The motivation behind much of it may simply be for the progress of science or to better humanity, life, and health. I absolutely think that is the motivation behind many scientists. But when does too much become too much? And how do you prevent that snowball from just accumulating? It's a slippery slope. So many people that can't be trusted with that kind of authority. There are many people that can't be trusted with that kind of authority and power. And how do you kind of control that? I think cherry picking genetic traits could only potentially exacerbate already existing social and political issues like racism, xenophobia, sexism. I can't even imagine how, with as much as these things are already present, how much that could, us being able to choose our traits could exacerbate that. On the extreme end, humans could all begin to look alike and become eerily uniform and become essentially no longer human. So I know that sounds maybe kind of extreme, but I very well see that happening. And ultimately, all of the neo-evolution potentially taking away, our humanity and us becoming robot-like people. So who knows what would happen, but that would be certainly the extreme end. All right, so those are all of my questions. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.